Basically, as I have told you that this was conducted along with the 7th Population and Housing Census 2023, first ever digital census. Basically, 24 types of units were enumerated: households, shops, schools, colleges, universities, hospitals, and factories. And the nature of activity, that what kind of economic activity they are engaged in, whether they are production activities, services, or social kind of activities in which they are engaged. We have their unique addresses and also the phone numbers along with the geotagging. Phone number was optional, but those who have provided it, we do have that information also. We have the number of employees by category, and then the 2-digit Pakistan Standard Industrial Classification was used to identify the economic activities which have been listed in the economic census. Next. Next. This was basically the 24 categories, all those economic activities which were being performed in the houses, they were also enumerated. Orphanage, old homes, hostels, hotels, jail, hospital, madrasa, school, college, university, mosques, retail shops, wholesale shops. So all these were enumerated, they were geotagged, their economic activity was noted, and their employment was also noted. We don't have the economic information about them, that how much turnover they have or how much sales they have, but at least we have two indicators: the exact location of that economic activity and the employment which is engaged in that economic activity. Next. Next. So as far as the residential units are concerned, the households, first strategy was for enumeration of the economic activities. So household economic activities, whatever the economic activities were being carried out by the household, that included tailoring, beauty parlor, livestock, tuition, poultry, freelancing, which was a huge activity which was not being covered previously, embroidery. So these were the economic activities which were being carried out in the household, and they have been captured in the economic census as household activities. Also some economic units which were the secondary strategy for enumeration economic activities. So all those which were structured, this is important. The mobile were not covered and they are out of the system, but at least which have a proper structure, they have a nameplate which can be geotagged, they can be found whenever we go there and we can trace it, that economic activity or that structure, that has been enumerated. And the key questions were that what is the unit type, what is the name of the business, number of persons engaged, and type of the description and the PISIC code we have for the economic activities. Next. This is basically data on economic structures. Also, we do have the data on the residential structures for multi-story structures and simple structures up to triple story. So that is also a very useful information, that how much different types of structures we have in the country according to the provinces, which can be discussed in any of the evidence-based decision making. Next. Basically, number of establishments which were enumerated throughout the Pakistan, about 7.14 million establishments were enumerated, and a workforce of 24.34 million was enumerated within this 7.14 million. In Punjab, we were able to enumerate 4.36 million establishments, having a 13.64 million workforce. In Sindh, 1.38 million establishments with 5.713 million workforce. KPK 1 million with 3.98, Balochistan 303,000, and in Islamabad 86,000 with 621,000 workforce. It must be remembered that this was enumerated by the teachers at that time, so there can be a possibility that they might have given a wrong PISIC or something else. We tried our best to correct that, but still that process of rectification of the data is going on by performing our field surveys. Next one. So this is a glimpse that this country has about 7 million establishments, out of which 2.7 million are the retail shops, 188,000 are the wholesale shops in the country, 825,000 service shops, 23,000 factories, 643,000 production shops, about 10,452 semi-government offices, 600,000 mosques we have, and 19,645 banks, 246,000 hotels, 119,000 hospitals, and 36,331 madrasas are also in this country. So all of these informations, these were never available in this country, but now we have this information which is geocoded and which is available by province, by district, and even up to lower level. Next. When we go to the establishments and their employed persons by sector, so in services, this is the information. You can see it, 57.7% of the establishments belong to services, percent production, 14% is social and others. So similarly, employed persons, 45% are linked with services, 21% with production, and 30% with social services. Next. This is by district total established. Next. This is, you can see the total workforce up to 100,000 is red, and more than 100,000 to 250,000 is in pink. So this is the structure which we have. This can be shared with you after this panel discussion. Next. This is by total establishments and workforce. So both of them linked together, that where the labor force exists, how much labor force exists, and how much or what is the concentration of the economic establishments by districts. So this is a very useful information that can be used for the discussion and all of those policy decisions. Next. This is basically the same distribution by establishments, by province, for social, production, and services. Next. This is type of the economic, the household activity. This is the activity now which is being carried out within the household. So the tailoring, this is the number of establishments, 419,000. Carpet manufacturing, embroidery, packing of eatables, tuition centers, poultry farming, animal farming. So this is the information which has been captured within the household, which are also performing the economic activities. Next. Now we come to the labor force statistics. Labor force statistics, we have recently conducted the labor force statistics 24-25, and this is an information which was long awaited for the last 2 to 3 years, and people have been eager about this labor force. And in this data fest, we are just showing you the key indicators, and the detailed data will be disseminated in a couple of weeks. So this is Pakistan Bureau of Statistics has been conducting labor force since 1963. This is the 37th round. So last survey was conducted in 24-25. Next. So we have, in fact, PBS has shifted from manual data collection to CAPI or to electronic data collection for all the surveys. All the field activities being carried out by the PBS are basically on digital gadgets. No manual data collection or paper-based data collection is being carried out now. So labor force covers 13 SDGs, is extensively used by the government, researchers, and other minority to monitor the impact of the policies. The next. So the methodology, you all know this because you all have been involved in the process of the labor force survey, and all of you are basically the users of the labor force survey. So you know the methodology is the household inquiry information collected directly. Universe consists of all urban and rural areas of Pakistan, excluding military restricted areas. So last week is the reference period, or the past week. Enumeration was carried out throughout the 4 quarters, from July 24 to June 2025. Sample design is stratified 2-stage sample design, and we had a 3,796 enumeration blocks with 54,832 households. Next. The total sample size was 54,832, out of which KP had 9,728, Punjab had 23,584, and the response rate was 99.5%. Next. All international standards are being followed while compiling the labor force. The International Conference on Labor Statistics, ICLS, has served as the global standard setting. Frequency is after every 5 years. Purpose: develop international definitions. Pakistan Bureau of Statistics conducted this labor force survey following ICLS standards, and a revision of the questionnaire was carried out, and revised labor force 24-25 is as per 19th and 21 ICLS guidelines. Next. These are the basic key indicators. We capture employment, unemployment, participation rate, unemployment rate, employment to population ratio, underemployment, employment by occupations, wage survey, income, occupation injuries, employment status. So these are basically the key indicators which are captured in the labor force survey. Next. This is the distribution of the working age population. So overall, the labor force is 83.1 million, out of which the employed are 77.2 million, 5.9 million were unemployed. Out of the labor force are 96.5 million, and working age population is 179.6 million. Next, labor force in millions. So overall, it is 83.1, out of which KP has 12.5 million, Punjab has 48.2 million, Karachi has, I cannot see the numbers, so it is 4 million is for Balochistan, I think. So overall labor force for 24-25. Next. So employment in millions. So employment is 77.2 million, out of which in KP is 11.3 million, 44.7 in Punjab, 17.5 in Sindh, and 3.8 million in Balochistan. This is the labor force participation rate. 46.3% is the overall at the national level, 41.2% in KP, 49% in Punjab, 44.7 in Sindh, and 41.7 in Balochistan. Unemployment rate of 24-25 in Pakistan, it is 7.1%. In KP, it is 9.6%. In Punjab, it is 7.3%. In Sindh, it is 5.3%, and in Balochistan, it is 5.5%. Employment to population ratio, this is in KP is 37.2, Punjab 45.4, Sindh 42.3, Balochistan 39.3, and Pakistan 43.6%. Employment by major industries, so these are the major industries. 33% employment goes to agriculture, 25.7% to industry, and 41.2% to services. And major sectors which are contributing are the community and social services 19.5%, transport 6.6%, wholesale and retail about 16%, construction 9.9%, manufacturing 14.8%, and agriculture 33.1%. Next. Occupation groups, employment by managers, professionals, technicians and associate professors, clerical support workers, service and sales workers, skilled agriculture, forestry and fishery workers. So this is basically the distribution. You can see this. Next. Employment status in percentage. So 43.5% and employees, out of the own account workers are 36.1%, unpaid helpers are 19.2%, and employers are 1.3%. Formal and informal sector employment. So Pakistan formal sector is 27.9%, informal is 72.1%, KP is 26.6 and 73.4, Punjab 26.1 and 73.9, Sindh is 32.7 and 67.3, and Balochistan 30.4 and 69.6. Average monthly wage rate is 39,974 in KP. It is around about 39,000 throughout the country and in Pakistan also. Next. Average monthly income is around about 607,246 in KP, 601,000 in Punjab, 546,000 in Sindh, and 572,000 in Balochistan. One of the important aspect of the labor force survey was that we, for the first time in this in the history of the labor force, is the gig workers. This is the gig economy is prevailing over the years, And it was the vision of our chief statistician, Dr. Naeem Muzaffar, that we must introduce this aspect in this labor force, and with his intervention, and we discussed it with all the technical people, and the questionnaire was modified, and for the first time the gig workers have been captured for both, and we have this bifurcation by gender. So both sexes, 2.9% main work are engaged as a main work as gig workers, out of which the male are 30% and female are 2.5%. And as a subsidiary work, you can see 10.6% of the overall workers are engaged in the gig economy. Male are 9.8% and female are 15%. Next. This is the gig workers by province. So in KP, it is 2.9%. They take it as the main work, 2.8% in Punjab, 3.4% in Sindh, and 1.2% in Balochistan. As a subsidiary work, 10.8% in KP, 9.4% in Punjab, 15.9% in Sindh, and 9.8% in Balochistan. Youth NEET is also calculated, and it is available around about 31.2% in KP, 22.9% in Punjab, 31.6% in Sindh, and 33.8% in Balochistan. Next. Mean hours worked, you can have these numbers. Next. So with this, thank you so much for your time. This is the glimpse of the numbers which we have, the data which PBS has, and now the question is that how this data has to be linked together with the economic census data, and how this data can be made use by the private sector, by the public sector, by the policy decisions. And I think the panel will be discussing the aspects that how data can be used by the private sector and the public sector. So I will request Ibrahim to come back to the podium to his own place. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Atiq Saab. One thing I think everybody should take away from this is the wealth of data that PBS has collected over the last few years, and I really appreciate this opportunity for them to have provided us a snapshot of Pakistan's landscape, both on the labor side but also on the enterprise side. So we've gotten to the data part. Let's now take a step further towards evidence. To this end, we will be hearing from Mr. Nemat Khuduzadeh, who is, I will describe all of his achievements in detail. Where are we? Nemat Saab is the head of labor statistics at the State Statistical Committee of Azerbaijan and has over 3 decades of experience in economic and labor statistics, where he has served in various roles since 1991. He has been awarded the Medal for Distinction of Public Service by the President of Azerbaijan in recognition of his contribution to the development of Azerbaijan's labor statistics landscape. Nemat Saab will be presenting us results and key insights from the international experience on how we can move from survey data towards live statistical business registries and what Pakistan can learn from this experience. So.
Yeah. And this one? Yeah, yes, good. Yeah. Dear participants, once again, I warmly welcome everyone. Since there is a limited time for the presentation, I will try to present a number of slides in summaries form. My present consists of 5 parts: current situation in labor market in Azerbaijan, and sector reviews of labor market, use of administrative data, production for official statistics, modernization, and the future perspective. Of course, the main documents define the development of labor statistics in Azerbaijan include the State Program on Improvement of Official Statistics 2018-2025, a long-term strategy on the use of administrative data, the Action Plan for the Prevention of Informal Employment, and the others government's program strategies, roads, maps. Also, resolution recommendations, guidelines for International Conference on Labor Statisticians, methodological recommendation of Eurostat, European Statistical Office, the Statistical Recruitment Compendium. The second global assessment of national statistical system of Azerbaijan and the sector review of the labor market statistics, both of organized by Eurostat. The Department of Labor Statistics is one of the 11 branch departments in the headquarters of National Statistical Office of Azerbaijan. The department has 17 employees, and the department comprises two sectors: employment and the wage statistics sector and the labor force survey sector. The collection of earning statistics data is carried out on active enterprises and organizations operating in the country are included in the enterprises survey. Complete enumeration is conducted while individuals are covered on a sample basis. Quarterly and annual surveys cover all micro, small, medium, and large enterprises, whilst monthly survey includes all except macro enterprises. Data are collected for all forms of ownership, types of economic activity, and all regions of the country. All enterprises operating in the country are included in statistical reporting. That is, data are collected from all units without exception. Labor force survey was conducted for the first time in 2003 and once again 2006 as a long-term survey based on ILO methodology. Since 2007, it has been carried out on a quarterly basis. Currently, the survey covers the entire country and includes 23,000 households. These households represent 1% of the total number of households in the country. Data sources are establishment survey, households, administrative sources, population census. Application on real-time mode in labor statistics are data on labor statistics as well as on the branches of statistics are provided in real time on the website of National Statistical Office of Azerbaijan. Data collection, reporting forms, and the instructions for completing them are available on the website. All types of statistical questionnaires are accepted online and monitored by employees of local statistical bodies. In accordance with the recommendation on labor market statistics received during a global assessment of National Statistical System of Azerbaijan, Eurostat carried out a sector review of labor market statistics in the country with the participation of international experts. In this regard, in 2017, the National Statistical Office of Azerbaijan officially addressed Eurostat. As a result, sectoral assessments were carried out of the labor force survey in 2018 and for earning statistics, including wages, labor costs, and job vacancies in 2019. Final reports were prepared and published on the website of Eurostat and the National Statistical Office of Azerbaijan. Based on the result of the above-mentioned sectoral assessment, international experts presented relevant recommendations of employment statistics to the National Statistical Office. These recommendations were taken into account in improving the statistical survey forms. Within the framework of the program implemented by Eurostat and with the involvement of international experts, the labor force survey questionnaire, its methodology, and the household sampling methods were improved in line with the international standards adopted in 19 International Conference of Labor Statisticians. In 2021, a pilot survey based on the questionnaire and the methodology was conducted. Subsequently, the labor force survey questionnaire and its methodology were approved in coordination with the relevant government bodies, the Minister of Labor, the Minister of Economy, and have been implemented at the national level since the first quarter of 2022. The labor force survey is conducted using tables copy. Based on the result of the sector review on earning statistics, relevant activities were carried out to improve official statistics forms for the preparation of statistical data in accordance with the European and international norms and standards, including the European Statistics Code of Practice. In this case, this eliminates the need for printing paper questionnaires, sending them to the regions, entering data manually, and performing other additional tasks, thus saving time and resources. In the field of labor statistics, it is considered appropriate to use administrative data. It will be possible to obtain decent work indicators through a labor force survey. Of course, it is different administrative sources for labor statistics. It is business register, databases of employment agents, database of tax authorities, and others. The State Register of Statistical Units consolidates information in legal entities and individuals. The primary sources of the information, the State Tax Services, Ministry of Justice, the State Committee of Religious Associations. After legal entities and individuals are registered with the state bodies, the data are transferred to NSO of Azerbaijan. Here's the international classification used in the register. Of course, it is classification of economic activities, of economic sectors, world countries. Also, it is methodology we are using specialties, business register recommendation manual Eurostat, international guidelines for statistical business register Eurostat, guidelines on statistical business register UNICE. Also, users of registered statistical departments, local statistical authority, Department of Information Technology, and the Scientific Research and Innovation Center. And the economic indicators of the register is updated once a year, number of employees and on annual turnover to determine the value of units and the subject classifications. For other information updated constantly. If you can see here, updating it once a year from administrative sources, local statistical authority, and the statistical department. Updating and of course using all the department. In order to attracting sources of administrative data of official statistics purpose, the current state program of development official statistics, including in activity to integrate government agents database into the statistical database through the electronic government information system. As a result, agreement signed with 5 government agents in 2019. And the database of Ministry of Labor, Education, Ministry of Education, State Examination Center, State Migration Service were integrated into NSO of Azerbaijan statistical databases. Using administrative database for statistical purposes has helped to reduce of number of reporting forms and indicators, hereby lessening the burden of respondents. In this area, we cooperated with Korean National Statistical Office. The project of creating an integrated administrative data management system led to development of administrative data management system, ADIS, which has presented 2022. ADIS includes 5 main management menus, 21 sub-menus, and 42 sections. It is used to receive, validate, and distribute administrative data to relevant departments. The system also provides tools for managing users, programs, menus, permissions, and the facilities, making it easier to organize and the correct flow of administrative data. Of course, we can see here we signed an agreement with this state government. Okay. The integration of the database of the examination center, which maintains statistics on civil servants, also a Ministry of Labor and State Migration Service and the tax authorities, into the statistical database of NSO of Azerbaijan through the state information system e-government has been completed. Official statistical questionnaire is regularly updated to reduce the number of indicators collected from the respondent of using administrative data. This approach also makes real-time statistical data from administrative sources more widely available. For example, by integrating the State Examination Center's database, which contains statistics on civil servants, into the NSO database, 197 out of 365 indicators in the civil servant statistical questionnaire is now generated automatically. And the main advantage, so I already mentioned, the NSO focuses in producing statistics that meet modern standards, improving the national statistical system, and using innovative digital tools to strengthen public trust in data. And this work covers a wide range of areas, including the digitalization of services provided to respondents and the users, the modernization of data dissemination process to make information more accessible, the integration and expanding use of administrative data, the application of big data for deeper analysis, the use of settled data, and the digitalization of the large-scale statistical operation, such as the agriculture census. The NSO provides 6 main electronic services. The NSO is actively working in the digitalization on the data dissemination process. One of the key tools in Azerbaijan Statistical Information Service, ASIS, which provides users with easy and reliable access to statistical data. Also has been developed an electronic map, allowing users of visual statistical indicators by region. In addition, the National Information Portal of Sustainable Development Goals offers detailed information on the progress made towards achieving all SDGs in the country. These digital platforms make statistical information more transparent, accessible, and user-friendly. As a result, government institutions, researchers, business, and the public can quickly obtain the data they need for analysis and decision-making. This transformation helps to strengthen trust in official statistics and supports evidence-based policy planning. Here you can see ASIS implemented especially with the support Korean Statistical Office. The main advantage of ASIS is user-friendly design. It allows users to compile tables and the dynamic series in real time, visualize data, and print or save graphs and on official statistics stored in database. ASIS is built with the sample structure and follows internationally recognized standards for the dissemination. This ensures convenient access to official statistics data, not only for domestic users, but also for foreign citizens and international organizations. Electronic map is an interactive tool of visualizing statistical data through thematic maps. The users can change the geographical level of the map for selected indicators, the year of the indicators, the number of classes of the color. The application provides the opportunity to quickly review the reflection of specific phenomena observed in official statistics in the map. The map was developed by the NSO of Azerbaijan in 2015-2017. The purpose of this map is to improve the dissemination of regional statistical prepared by the National Statistical Office of Azerbaijan. Initially, 44 indicators were available on the electronic map, and this number has now increased to 169. The National Information Portal, or SDG, was created in 2019 on the server National Statistical Office with the support of ENTP, Azerbaijan Representative Office. The portal aims to raise public awareness about the SDGs, share best practice, report on implemented measures and innovations, and monitor progress towards achieving the goals at the national level. It operates in both Azerbaijan and the English languages, with a structure consisting of 11 sections grouped under 3 main menus. Information on SDGs presented in the form of text, graphs, and tables. The portal also provides regular updates on global goals, targets, and indicators, as well as national priorities, the legal framework, state program, strategies, reports, and the publication on the social, economic, and the environmental fields. Yeah, most of it means additional decent work. Today, I will not too much explain you. Decent work and quality of employment indicators are regularly collected in NSO of Azerbaijan from the different sources. It is with household-based survey as LFS, household income and expenditure survey, establishment survey, and etc. Exchange experience. An online training course was conducted by specialists of Department of Labor Statistics of NSO of Azerbaijan to enhance the capacity of staff members of National Statistical Office of member countries of the Organization of Islamic Cooperation with the support of the Statistical, Economic and Social Research and the Training Center for Islamic Countries, SESRIC. It was last year. The training was held on the topic conducting and analyzing labor force survey for monitoring in the labor market, and 115 participants from 25 member countries took part in this training. Of course, the direction of IRFUG activities include, firstly, preparation of approval of national version of International Classification of Status in Employment, taking into account the requirement of the new standards. In this regard, to establishment of working group with the participation of representatives from relevant government bodies, employers, and the trade unions to conduct discussion. Second one, conducted a pilot survey based on ILO recommended questions that determine to employment status of population in accordance with the new classification. It would be beneficial if this process could be supported by international experts, subsequently introducing the necessary amendments to the current LFS questionnaire to address issues arising from the implementation of the new classification. Finally, obtaining the number of indicators on decent work, quality of employment, and the other based on the resolution of the 20 ICLS. As you know, there is a strong need to develop new criteria and the standards in line with the changes taking place in the labor market. I believe that the activities of ILO deserve high appreciation for the measures implemented and planned in this area. This international standard adopted over the past more 10 years demonstrated the importance for countries and obtain new statistical data based on updated methodological guidelines for analyzing modern labor market. I mean the resolution 19/2020 first ICLS. We, of course, understand that this is not an easy task. However, the main part of the challenge mission falls on us, so labor statisticians. In this regard, I wish everyone success in our future activities. Thank you very much for attention.
Thank you, Mr. Khudazadeh, for your presentation. I think one thing all of you have now seen is both what we can do with the data that we have in the form of a live statistical business register, and we see a pathway forward, but from our earlier presentation, we also see challenges with 70% of our workforce in informal employment, and even really rigorous exercises such as the economic census unable to capture unstructured establishments. There are clearly gaps. In this spirit, I would like to start our panel discussion because we need to hear from these experts in how we fill those gaps and how we create a better data landscape for job creation in Pakistan. I'll invite the panelists one by one and I'd request them to join us on stage. We'll start with Dr. Alia Hashmi Khan. She is a retired professor of economics and former dean of the Faculty of Social Sciences at Quaid-e-Azam University. She has served on key national bodies including the Prime Minister's Economic Advisory Council, Monetary Policy Committee, and Labor Expert Group under the Ehsaas program. She's a renowned labor and gender economist and has advised the Planning Commission, PBS, and international organizations in countless times. She received the President's Medal, Mohtarma Fatma Jinnah Award for her contributions to women economic environment through teaching and research. Welcome, Dr. Alia. Next, I'd like to call Sahar Etizaz. Sahar is an operations officer at the International Finance Corporation, which is part of the World Bank Group, and has extensive experience in financial services and development sectors. She specializes in sustainable development, policy analysis, and data analytics. She has a master's in public administration from the international development from Cornell University and is leading the IFC's engagement in Pakistan under the World Bank Country Partnership Framework. Next, I'd like to call Mr. Monis Rahman. He is a pioneering Pakistani entrepreneur and technology leader, renowned for his transformative contributions to Pakistan's digital economy. Not only is he the founder of Recruit AI, but also Pakistan's largest online employment platform, Rosie.pk. Rosie.pk was the first local startup to secure venture funding in 2008, marking a significant milestone in the country's tech industry. And in addition to Rosie, Monis Saab has also founded Finja, a fintech company that developed Pakistan's first smartphone mobile phone wallet, and has also launched Dukaan PK, an e-commerce platform empowering small, micro, and medium enterprises to establish online stores. Welcome, Monis Saab. Next, I'd also like to call on Ms. Amreen Waheed, who is a senior consultant at the Ministry of Planning, Development and Special Initiatives and is the founder of the Responsible Behavior Institute. She is a global authority on responsible business practices and ethical governance and has advised many international organizations. She is a University of Cambridge graduate with an MPhil in Management Studies and is recognized for her pioneering frameworks on responsible business and sustainability and ESG practices. Last but not the least, I would like to invite Mohammad Asif Saab, who is an economic development strategist with over 20 years of experience driving SME growth and industrial competitiveness. Currently, he's part of the Small and Medium Enterprises Development Authority and has implemented the National SME Policy in 2021 and has collaborated with international partners such as the ILO World Bank. Thank you, everyone. Lastly, I'd also like to call Mr. Nemat Khudazadeh back on stage, because as I'm sure the panelists as well as the audience will have questions to learn from further from Azerbaijan's experience. A round of applause for our panelists, and let's get the discussion started. I'd like to invite all of you to really start by framing the landscape in light of what we've seen in the presentations and based on your experience. So I'll try to ask questions directly to each one of you, and then we can take it from there. I'd like to start with Dr. Alia. Dr. Alia, from the LFS and economic census data, what key trends stand out to you for understanding Pakistan's labor market? And how do you think these insights from the data and surveys PBS is generating can be used to guide investment opportunities in Pakistan?
I would like to take this opportunity to first thank the Pakistan Bureau of Statistics and the World Bank for convening this very important panel on job creation using data and data-generated evidence. We just saw preliminary glimpses of data from the first ever conducted economic census, digital economic census, and the latest labor force survey 24-25. And as an academician and researcher, what strikes in terms of similarity of patterns is the high level of informality rather in both the establishment profile as well as the labor profile. And we didn't get an opportunity to look at the gender disaggregated data, but being privy to the gender disaggregated data series of the labor force survey, I would like to point out that one major pathway for understanding what the labor force statistics reveal is the gender gap scenario in Pakistan in terms of the labor force participation rates, in terms of the occupation categories in which men and women work in Pakistan, and I think the huge pool of the not in education, employment and training youth is also a very telling statistic for both the public and the private sector. Let me just briefly touch on what I see emerging from today's panel is the need for a whole ecosystem for job creation. You know, job creation is not just a single variable. It is comprised of many facets. For example, what is the role of the public sector in job creation, as is being discussed at the highest global forums now, and that is to provide the infrastructure for job creation in terms of digital infrastructure or physical infrastructure, and there are many types of physical infrastructure. We don't have the time to get into it. What is the role of the private sector? The role of the private sector is to innovate and create the employment opportunities for economic growth by mobilizing private capital. So the whole ecosystem needs data in terms of target setting, in terms of policy making, both at the public and the private sector level. What we have seen from the Azerbaijan presentation is that I was very impressed by the National Statistical Information Service that they have. How to translate data into information that is meaningful for both the public and the private sector to play its individual role in job creation. I will stop here because I think that these are some of the basic issues that we need to start tackling. And also, as an ending comment, integration. We have seen the integration of different data sources through the Azerbaijan presentation, and as we were developing the contours of this panel, there was a lot of talk on how the public sector and the private sector in an integrated data framework, in an integrated data portal maybe, or a digital hub can guide the job creation activity in Pakistan. So I'll stop here, Ibrahim, and I'll come in later. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Alia. I think Dr. Alia's point really drives home the importance of this particular panel discussion, and I'll use that opportunity to go to the private sector on this. Monisa, given your experience leading platforms like Rosie.pk and Dukaan, what insights do you think the private sector can actually bring using their data on hiring, skills demand, and especially the informal economy? And how do you think private sector data can complement official statistics, such as what we've seen today?
Thank you so much, Ibrahim. And first of all, I'd like to just congratulate PBS on the wonderful data that was collected through the survey. Would love to get access to it. I think one of the big problems in the private sector we find is the scarcity of official data. So we have to generate our own data, we have to make assumptions with data, and the more we can make the data free and available, I think the more useful information we can extract. So just a request, the more open we can make the data, I'm sure a lot of us can do a lot with that information. Coming back to job data, Rosie was probably one of the earlier job platforms in the country. It's the largest. We have about 10 million professionals. These are mainly white-collar professionals on the platform. About 95,000 employers. Again, these are the more formal employers. And if I correlate this data set back to what I just saw, I'm excluding the agricultural workforce out of this, which is about 30% or so. So we have about 20 million white-collar workers, broadly speaking, and about 40 million blue-collar workers, non-agricultural. And Rosie has about 10 million of the white-collar workers. So about 50% of the white-collar workers have been on our platform. at some point. For these individuals, we know their salary, we know their education levels, we know which jobs they're applying for, which fields they're in, where they live, location. So it's an incredible amount of information that we have. And this information is basically trapped inside CVs. And we were able to extract information on CVs, use our algorithms to sort of make sense of it. But something just miraculous has happened in the last 2 years, 3 years, is AI. And now through the use of large language models, LLM, you've all heard of ChatGPT, the engine behind it, the LLMs, large language models, we're able to take the data on those CVs and extract incredible semantic insights, meaning that I don't have to match keywords. I can take an industry or I can take a career level and I can map it automatically against a set of predefined criteria, which was a tremendously difficult task to do before and a very simple task to do now. So now we're finding that the sort of information we are able to extract just from a CV is just amazing, much more than we expected. Moving this along to actually, I think what gets really interesting is when we talk about blue-collar labor. What we found is if we aggregate jobs for a segment, the white-collar segment, we get applicants very quickly. People want jobs, they apply, and the act of applying generates data, and that is actionable data. There are many hidden jobs in the economy, and there are many hidden employees in the economy. Our blue-collar segment, that 40 million, these are hidden individuals. They're there, they're informal. Very hard to understand what they're doing, when they're doing it, how they're doing it, and those jobs are also hidden. So I think one of the most exciting things that we are working on, and we've worked very closely with World Bank on a number of studies in the labor area, is we are using now agentic AI through a WhatsApp communication channel that speaks Urdu, and that communicates in voice notes. So what we've seen is now we can communicate with almost anybody. 68% of adults in Pakistan have access to an internet-enabled smartphone today, and every one of those people are using WhatsApp, and they're able to communicate, usually through voice notes if they're part of the informal sector. We have built now these chatbots that can interview them and build Harvard MBA-style CVs for a chowkidar or a driver. And the amount of insight we're able to extract through this interactive, agentic sort of questionnaire, which they fill out because they're motivated to find a job, is tremendous. So now we're able to get access to these 40 million hidden individuals in the labor market. We're also able to get access to those hidden jobs in the labor market because a clerk, a beauty store, a salon, a merchant can also use Urdu voice notes to advertise a job, and we can agentically match based on geographic locations and skill set. So data enrichment now that's available has never been available before. And when you combine this data set that we're in the process of gathering, and you don't have to go out street to street, you just have to post a job. It's like honey, the bees will come to the honey because jobs are very important. You find that very, very quickly you can amass a massive high quality data set, you can analyze it, and it becomes incredibly actionable. So we're very much looking forward to working with PBS and other organizations like World Bank in taking that data and actioning it to create a lot more insights.
Thank you, Mona Sab. That sort of really connects very well with the size of Pakistan's informal economy, and even within the informal economy, you see this phenomena of hidden jobs that Mona Sab has pointed out, and we'll hopefully get a chance to discuss that again once we've heard from everybody. I'll now turn from the private sector to really understand the small and medium industry landscape. So, Asif Sab, when you think about an SME policy, right, how do you start to identify the sectors with the greatest potential for job creation? What data do you use for that policy, and how do you think enterprise data can further better inform those decisions in a much better way?
Thank you so much. First of all, I really appreciate this PBS event. I think this kind of the event is the right start of using data into a informed policy making. As far as SME policy or this MEDA policy related to the entrepreneurs or the SME sector is concerned, we use lot of data sets for formulating the policy, and I believe PBS own data sets like economic census, labor force survey, survey of household economics, then the survey of manufacturing industries. These are the basic data sets or the survey tools which we used for making the policy from the PBS, and then we have economic survey of Pakistan, which is a regular publication on every year. So basically by utilizing those data sets, we come up with a informed policy making. As an example, I can quote that from last 10 years, if you can see from the data that around 15 years back, the manufacturing industry share in the Pakistani GDP or economy was around 24 to 25%, which has shrunk to 18%. So obviously, this is the information which is coming out from the data. And from this 6% decrease is going into the services sector. So if you are making the policy for the SME sector or the enterprises, so you have to look in to those that why the services sector is growing. Obviously, with the invent and the availability of the information sector and the ICT technologies, AI and all those things, that the service sector is becoming the major part of the economy, and why our manufacturing industries is shrinking, and which are the major sectors which has shrunk more as compared to the others. So all these data sets basically help us to make an informed policy decision. As like the SME policy of 2021, which SMEDA has rolled out and which is going to be completed in 2025, and in 2025 we are going to relaunch a new SME policy. So all those policy measures were based on these data sets. That one of the key component was that we have analyzed from the data that there are various agencies which are using a different definition for the SME. So if a country is not like agreed on a single definition, so how can they come up with a solutions for a particular sector? So all these data sets or the informations play a big role in connecting the dots. So SMEDA is a knowledge-based organization, and our main work is totally dependent on this information and the data sets. Thank you.
Thank you, Asif Saab. Two things really stand out from the discussion so far. One is what Monis Saab emphasized, the need for more open data. And also we've seen how organizations like SMEDA use the existing official statistics to try and inform policy, but also face gaps because they realize that there are a lot of other information that exists in silos across the country, be it with government departments or other departments, as I understand it. And so I'd like to get a sort of a bigger picture to hone in on this point, and I'll bring in IFC here. Sir, so you've heard from our panelists so far on where data is being used, but you can also see gaps in which this can be improved. So from the IFC's perspective, what gaps do you think currently exist in the labor market and enterprise data in Pakistan that limit its usefulness for private sector policy making and development? And how do you think having that better data can inform analysis towards better investment in Pakistan?
Thank you, Ibrahim, and thank you to all these esteemed panelists. Very good points have been raised so far. So just to take 2 steps back and highlight the fact that Dr. Alia had said about job creation, right, and the role that private sector has to play. So around 90% of the jobs, they tend to come from the private sector in all emerging economies, but obviously private sector cannot do that alone. It has to be done in tandem with the public sector, and there's a continuum basis of foundation where physical infrastructure, investment in human capital is important, plus there has to be policy continuity, policy certainty, and an enabling business environment for the private sector to really thrive and create those jobs. And so this continuum that is founded or grounded in solid data, that is important for creating jobs. Especially in productive sectors, right? Because there are a lot of structural adjustments that are needed within the economy of Pakistan to create jobs in high productivity sectors. So the data analytics that are provided by the Labor Force Survey and Economic Census they can be very powerful tools to highlight what are the growth opportunities. How the private sector utilizes is what Monis highlighted earlier, right? Is the whole point of having this data is it has to be packaged properly, right? So that it can be translated into insightful labor market dynamics that can be utilized by the private sector, right? There are various ways which private sector investors, corporations like IFC can use this data. So the gaps that currently exist are essentially of how you package them. So important information can come out in terms of how to pave way inclusive pathways for SMEs, right? Gender gap, disaggregated data on youth, what are the barriers to economic mobility? These are all important parameters to take into account when private sector investors, they want to invest in specific areas of growth. This data can also be utilized to see which sectors have an economic multiplier effect, right? And as we move and going forward, the role of the private sector is not just important in terms of the inclusive agenda, but also in terms of creating green jobs. Climate proofing of jobs is extremely important in having data which can analyze which sectors are vulnerable to climate impact. That's also important just for the skilling and reskilling of such SMEs. Because this is also an added incentive for foreign investors like IFC, because the private sector companies, if they're trying to create inclusive and green jobs, they can have facilities to sustainable financing instruments where you can have a step down in financing. That's one of the tools that IFC tends to provide to create certain incentives and to achieve certain agendas like job creation and gender inclusion. So these are the KPIs that the companies can demonstrate so they can get favorable terms in terms of financing. Then I think one key thing that this data really needs to be utilized properly is to have the skills mismatch. This mismatch that economies tend to face, not just in Pakistan, you've seen that in India also, even in highly productive and high growth sectors, there is massive skills mismatch, right? Just aligning the demand and supply and ensuring that the investors, they invest in the right kind of skilling, reskilling and upskilling of their workforce that can actually generate productivity. So that's also an important agenda that the data can be utilized through the private sector. So let me stop here.
Thank you, sir, and especially thank you for bringing up the importance of a skill match in order to ensure job creation in Pakistan, and that's an area that often has been left undiscussed in recent times when we're talking about job creation. But before we go there, I'd also like to get the perspective of the main planning hub of the government, which is the Ministry of Planning. Ms. Amreen, so we've listened to various parties on how they use data and what challenges they face. From your perspective, what are some of the more policy and institutional bottlenecks that are preventing a country like Pakistan from really creating a targeted job creation policy?
Okay, I will not go in detail about what already had been spoken, but I think what PBS, this LSF and economic census data provide is the backbone. But it gives us static snapshots rather than basically dynamic dashboards. But now coming back to your answer about the policy level bottlenecks, we have to look at first that while developing policy, policy level we need to look not in the previous data, because this data provides, it's updated 2 years, after 2 years or whatever, and it's more of a static data. To develop any policy, we have to look in the future, we have to look at changing trends, especially the global trends, if we want economic growth and job creation based on that. So, we need, using this data as a backbone, the policy level, we have to look at all the stakeholders which will be affected by the policy, which includes private sector, which includes, again, SMEs, and all other stakeholders like our foreign investors within Pakistan, outside Pakistan. So I feel that we need to focus more on some of the things that future risk, and even when we are looking at different geographical locations, we have to have data on what geographical changes based on maybe the climate change. In future, what changes can happen to this geographical location, which we are thinking that it's best for a certain enterprise or certain things. And again, we have to look at technology, the fast changing technology. Due to that, the mobility within the, basically within our labor forces, how we are predicting to see that in next 5 or 10 years, how this skill set will move to some other place, or again, the changing needs of skills, because we are looking at what's needed before, in the past. So we have, it has to be a continuous changing, or what I said, dynamic dashboards. We have to develop for the, Planning Commission needs certain kind of basically ecosystem where it can connect, it can understand the needs in more detail, because this data provides maybe at the provincial level and not going in detail into the district level and the enterprise level skill sets. And I think I was also listening to, definitely. And when I was talking about the global scenarios and the changing screens, I feel still in our policy, while we are making policy, we feel that we don't have that kind of a data where we can see that in future what kind of skills are we will be needing, especially in terms of sustainability and ESG or whatever, all these buzzwords, circularity, and in the and which again I can see the IFC and all will understand that our FDI is dependent now on most of these environment, social, ethical things. So we also need to have some of that kind of a data. And for that, I suggest that we have to have, again, I will talk maybe in the next round about how we can connect all the stakeholder before doing a survey. So we have some connection rather than giving them the data afterwards. So I think I will end at this and leave with, thank you.
Thank you, Ma'am Amreen. I think for me, two things really stand out in what you said. One is the need to be able to identify, not just based on global realities, but also the existing landscape, what skills will be needed in the future to enable job creation. And we've already heard from the Monis Saab about how they were able to extract a lot of information from CVs and have proxy for skills as well. We'll get back to this conversation in our second round when we look really into the future, but before that, I'd like to circle back to Mr. Nemat Khudazadeh. You've seen both in the presentation from the labor force statistics, but also heard from various stakeholders in this data ecosystem. Where do you see the next steps for Pakistan in innovating what it has in its surveys, administrative data and censuses, and really step towards a more modern labor and enterprise data ecosystem?
Thank you very much. You know, it's my presentation also, I mentioned that labor force survey should be contacted because we are using some administrative data, also it is from labor force survey indicators. But firstly, statisticians should be analyzing if we are collected information from the administrative data, this data, we can use or international compares or not. Firstly, we should be paid attention methodology. The National Statistical Office, all the indicators, special labor market indicators, should be complete, collect International Labor Organization methodology. Because if you can see, for example, employment, unemployment, something, if we are collected from state employment agents about the unemployment or employment, and also we are collected from labor force survey. It is, when we analyzing this one, of course, it is some difference. They said that unemployment, who is registered unemployment, is unemployment. But ILO methodology, it is some criteria that who is unemployment. Of course, it is firstly should be paid attention methodology. I think that we can use administrative data, but not full. Should be used if we need. For example, if we conduct a labor force survey and we are collected some information, but maybe it is not covered all the peoples. Of course, I say that only 1% by regions we are contacted LFS. But now it is, for example, 100 persons it is registered in state employment bodies, 100 persons unemployment. But maybe we can not cover it all the employees because it is sampling design, it is different. Therefore, we are using administrative data. Of course, it will be 200 unemployment, but 100 employment who is registered, it will be including there. Also employment, it is different. I think that we used all the surveys, it is depend of period, maybe where, of course, quarterly, contacted quarterly. Some countries it is monthly. And, as I understand that Pakistan in year, one times in year. Of course, it is good that minimum it is quarterly, it is better because you can be controlling all the households and you can be controlling all the changes of labor market. You can be controlling them. I think that we can use administrative data and of course sampling survey. But of course it is the methodology, it is different, but we can analyzing which one it is we can using from administrative data, which one we can use labor force survey. That's way we can decrease our indicators, decrease some surveys, questionnaire, because our questionnaire is about 100 questions. It is too much respond for response. But if we can get from administrative data some people, we can decrease cutting some questions, and it will be useful. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nemat Saab. I think as he said, we will never be rid of labor force surveys, but labor force surveys in an environment where the job realities of Pakistan are constantly evolving will also never be enough. And so you really do need to look at not just administrative data, but also look towards the future, as Ma'am Amreen has said, in being able to identify how that job landscape will change. And here is where I'd like to come back and really open up the conversation a bit and talk about skilling. And I invite the entire panel to come in on this, but I'll start with Monis Saab. How have you seen the nature of skills that are in demand evolve in Pakistan, and what should we really be looking at in the data to be able to identify those changes and anticipate them? We've already seen in the labor force survey that we included a module on the gig economy. And about 10% of Pakistan's labor force is at least doing subsidiary work in some gig form. So you see some of the indicators there starting to point towards having a more flexible view of work and being able to identify skills needed to meet that global demand. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on this based on your experience with Rosie and your analysis of the CVs and what you're doing with Dukaan.
So, I mean, one thing I can tell you very confidently that the rate at which the demand for skills is evolving today is probably the fastest it's ever been in human history. And we've seen the pace of the evolution of new skills evolve very rapidly over time. It seems to be on this exponential curve. And again, I'll come back to AI, which is probably the biggest revolution that the human race has ever seen. And I'll give you an example right now. The fastest growing skill set demand for jobs globally now happens to be a career profession called data labelers. Data labelers. And when you go to the United States, you'll figure out when you go to job boards how many job opportunities are available for data labelers. And these aren't entry-level data entry people. I'm talking about lawyers, I'm talking about economists, I'm talking about software architects and doctors. Because as AI is getting smarter, there's a voracious amount of information, and human beings are doing reinforcement learning to clean up the data and make the AI models smaller. And this is something that's going to continue to increase as AI runs out of publicly crawlable data. So a classic example of a major shift that's going on. We also see as employers post jobs, we're often surprised by jobs that we have never heard of. There's a big lag between this and when entities in the government update their classifications of jobs, which are fairly structured and rigid, to realize that there's a category that has been created maybe 3 or 4 years ago that wasn't factored in. So having a very tight coupling between the demand for jobs through online platforms like ours and others, and feeding that data back and acting upon it, I think is very, very critical. One thing I just want to say that I think it's going to have a profound effect on our labor markets. What we've seen with AI, it's been proven across the world now, is what AI does is it takes a low-skilled individual and converts them into an expert and high-skilled individual because they're navigating this tool much like people could use a calculator and do advanced math that they weren't able to do before. And Pakistan has about 2 million people entering the workforce. We're not able to educate them at the rate we need to. But through AI, they will be able to upskill. So as the world is replacing expensive talent with AI and lower skilled individuals to drive and pilot that AI, Pakistan is blessed with a massive workforce that's lower skilled, that's cheaper, that can now, AI can now speak Urdu and local languages that will upskill. So I think it's actually pretty good news for a very large piece of the labor market that it's inevitable that we will be able to upskill people with lower education and skills ability. And that's going to cause a lot of movement in the labor market. Maybe there'll be freelancers, and sort of other individuals. So yeah, I'll stop there.
Would anybody like to come in on this, on the topic of skills?
I think just to add on, as already said, that the job market is shaping and use of AI and all those technologies. So from the perspective of the private sector or SMEs in Pakistan, if we can see that there is a huge skill gap with reference to the requirement of the industry as compared to what is taught in even the technological institutes or in the HEI, higher education institutions, you will find a huge gap if you talk to the industries that there is a big gap between the demand and supply of the labor force in Pakistan. So obviously we have to upskill our labor force to meet the need of the industry rather than just completing the degrees. Secondly, that diploma courses and the TVET education sector is very stagnant. They have not reformed themselves. So there is a huge need to reform this TVET as well as the diploma sector. For instance, in Pakistan, you will not find a customer relationship management courses. You will not find how to deal with the clients, how to talk to the clients, which is in huge demand as the retail and trade sector is also increasing in Pakistan. So we have to think in terms of the numbers, that how the industry is moving, how the different sectors are moving, and we have to do work to upgrade our skill development and the specialized trainings as well.
Dr. Ali, yes.
Yes, I just love that we are having this discussion, because I think this is showcasing what Pakistan really needs, which is partnerships for job creation. It is coming out so clearly that job creation is a very multifaceted issue, and the information that is coming from the private sector is also informing us that the trends that we are seeing from the national level surveys, like the labor force survey and the economic census, are actually echoing the same message, that it is an issue of scale. Pakistan has a labor force of 80 plus million, but the out of, if any one of you remembers, that the out of the labor force figure is also very huge. And most of the out of labor force are women. So we are also seeing that the freelancing proportion of females engaged in freelancing is higher than the proportion of males, and that is a subsidiary occupation for them. I think these are very important messages that are coming from the triangulation of data from the national level survey, as well as the more case study based data from the private sector, and also, of course, the trends that Mr. Munis is highlighting. So I think we have to build and nurture these partnerships to understand the whole job story for Pakistan. And here I would like to refer to a World Bank tool which has recently been developed in their growth and jobs practice, which is the growth and jobs country reports. And I was looking at the first report that has been
Dr. Ali, you can use Sahar's microphone possibly.
okay. I think I'm a teacher from the old generation who only used the power of her voice, so I'll just just not amplifying it enough. The job and the growth and jobs report really focuses on all the issues that we are talking about, the policy issues, the sectoral issues. Now, here we haven't really gone into the sectoral job picture for Pakistan, which is, I know we are not talking of agriculture, but agriculture is also a very dynamic sector in terms of job creation, because it is also harnessing digital technologies. And Munis Saab, I really appreciate your emphasis on what you pointed out regarding the demographic component of the youth that is not educated enough, that is not skilled enough, but it is looking for work. It is depending on its future quality of life for work. So how do we capture so-called that demographic and skill it and use it for, the growth trajectory of Pakistan. I've taught macroeconomics for many years, so much as we are talking of micro foundations, I think we also have to link it to the macro picture of growth for Pakistan. So I'll stop here. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ali, and apologies for the technical difficulties with the sound, but I could hear you clearly, and I'm hoping the audience could as well. One thing that's really sort of coming across in this conversation is that the private sector will always be ahead of the curve in terms of being able to identify what the landscape of jobs looks like in Pakistan. And you see institutions, public institutions like PBS sort of trying to play catch up and trying to record all of this information long after it's already happened. And as Ma'am Ambreen said earlier, is that often even for policymakers, it's not as useful to get the data later because that's a snapshot in the past. And I'll come back to her with a specific question on how we can really institutionalize the dialogue that's needed between the different data producers in Pakistan towards the policy making agenda. I understand that events like DataFest are super helpful to this end when bringing together the private sector and public institutions, but there also has to be something more centralized, something more rigorous, and something more institutionalized that allows this exchange of ideas so that everybody is up to speed on what jobs really look like in the country. Would you like to come in on this?
No. Okay. Yeah, as I earlier said, for whatever we were talking about, and I think most of us are agree to that collaboration for data collection and data production is important. But how do we collaborate? For that, of course, we have to institutionalize the whole concept. So develop some frameworks through which we ensure that when we collaborate for data, so it's actually useful. So it has to basically, we have to develop an institutional culture. So though I'm just off the hook, I'm proposing few things which I see, or just basically indicating some of the pitfalls which can happen, so how we can handle that. And all the sectors sitting here and all the stakeholders sitting here, I think all of us need to be collaborate on and in different capacities. For example, I think there is one thing when you collaborate, there is a hindrance about openness in sharing, and then sort of developing some confidence building, but then also there are some privacy issues, and then transparency issues and accountability issues. For that, probably we have to develop a soft kind of a forum, a continuous forum. Again, sometimes we sit together and develop some kind of institutionalized collaboration just for once or twice, and we do discussion in that. So I would suggest including IFC and some other international partners and the private sector, but also institutions like SCCP, State Bank, which can bring in that kind of credibility maybe, or they can look at the privacy issues which these collaborations basically can go wrong. Okay, so this is what I would, because the international partners can bring in a lot of experience from other countries, other international, globally, they can bring in some, for example, examples from countries which have successfully integrated data, these kind of data. So integration is important, and again, for integrating, we have to use technology tools, AI tools for integration. So we are looking at technology collaboration, we are looking at physical collaboration and the mindset collaboration, working together to not pinpoint the flaws in each other's data, but trying to basically bring together and built on and looking at the data from different perspective, basically co-create data and then make it, develop it in a form which is utilized by everybody. And again, I will stress again that we have to, while we are doing this, all of us have to look at the future. We have to look at the risk in, which can happen and and move it on a fast track that the way the overall environment is changing. So this data is useful for business sector, for policy making. Again, the data from the business sector also feed into the policy. So everybody has, people have to be open about the data and share it on a collaborative basis. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Imreen, and I think she brings up a point that hasn't come up in this conversation and should always be underscored. Yes, there is data, there is a lot of data, everybody has data, but underneath each data point is also an individual. And whenever we think about data sharing and building data systems, we also have to be very careful with making sure that the way it's done ensures the privacy of the individual whose data is collected and is under certain frameworks that allow for such confidentiality and regulation so that data privacy can be maintained. And so I thank you for bringing that point up. Here I'd also sort of like to go back and really renew why we want to focus on jobs, right? In 2035, there will be 1.2 billion young people will have more education and skills than their parents ever had. And the areas where you will see the largest demographic shifts with youthful populations, unfortunately also happen to be areas where there is the least work productivity. And Pakistan is an example of this. This is why we're really, as the World Bank, but globally, the focus on jobs is becoming more and more important. And here, so I'd like to also hear from Sahar on what she thinks the role that organizations such as ourselves, the World Bank and the IFC can really play in making sure this dialogue happens and how we can enable this transition to move towards productive on the basis of evidence.
Thank you, Ibrahim. So building on the points on skill gap analysis, having an adequate mechanism where you can match the current needs, assess the future needs versus the supply that you have in hand, right? So this is critical across economies. So let me give you two examples. Firstly, in case of Pakistan, the role that the bank is playing in terms of the analytics of using this new sets of labor force data, economic census, and so on and so forth, but really looking at the impact on poverty, informality, and job creation, right? So the analysis of such would translate into rich data that can be utilized to see which sectors are high in terms of job creation potential, plus also to address certain informality and economic mobility barriers. Along with the work that we are doing with the Pakistan Bureau of Statistics in helping them in the statistical modernization process of the data sets, plus building the capacity of the Ministry of Planning and Department in these various sectors, especially in terms of poverty measurement, which is along international best practices. So this is obviously one key role that the World Bank is playing here in Pakistan, but let me just quickly quote two other examples. One from a IFC's perspective, and this goes back to the skills gap analysis that I was referring to. So we have experience in Africa and also in India, where we have worked with the relevant ministries to do a digital skills taxonomy. So that's really seeing how the EdTech solution providers, they can scale, rescale, and upskill the productive sectors within the economy, where there is a missing gap in terms of digital skills, which is really needed to mobilize productive investments. And here there was also a role of public and private cooperation where IFC played in terms of coming up with frameworks that require competitive tendering and have performance-based contracts to outsource it to the relevant private sector providers to make sure that there is no gap between this demand and supply. That's in Africa. Then in Bangladesh, we have seen where the bank and IFC, more so the bank, because the labor force survey had indicated that there is female underemployment, plus there is regional disparity. And so the bank helped the government in terms of prioritizing what are the key sectors that can lead to job creation, and then really helping in that, utilizing that evidence to navigate the policy dialogue, right? Because certain policy incentives were created just to mobilize female workers, making sure they have safety within their workplace, there's mobility, and incentivizing that package, and also investing in their skilling, so to make sure that they are accordingly absorbed within the workforce. And this was something that was outlined going forward with results, that the female labor force participation increased in formal sectors. So this is really how data can be utilized for evidence-based policy making, and there everyone plays a role, as all the panelists have highlighted, the private sector, the policy makers, the public sector. Let me stop there. Thanks.
Thank you, sir, for highlighting some of the really important work the World Bank and the IFC is doing, not just in Pakistan, but also in other countries. You know, one of the pros of having a panel with such distinguished speakers from all across different stakeholders in the data ecosystem is that you get to hear really interesting insights from different corners of the landscape, right? The downside is that you feel like you can listen to them all day, and you probably don't have enough time. Here, I'd also really like to allow the audience to bring in their questions to the panelists, and if the panelists allow, if there's anybody who would like to give any other remarks before we move to question and answers.
Yeah, if I could just add one thing. You know, I think the key to unlocking this is having integrated data. And it sounds like a tough problem. It's not that hard of a problem to solve. It's been solved many times all over the world. If you look at Saudi Arabia, you look at UAE, I've seen before my eyes in a period of 5-6 years how all of the data has been integrated between all the ministries, consolidated and actioned. And it takes a central force to do this, an approach of talking to all the various organizations and saying, you give your data, you give your data, you give your data, let's try to collate it, let's try to make sense of it. It's garbage, it's nonsense. Because if you're doing a survey and I'm seeing the results of a survey that happened a year ago, that was released a year ago, the survey happened a year before that, it's 2 years old, the format in which I'm specifying certain categories are going to vary from what State Bank is giving me, and that data is from 2013, and now you're trying to take all of these manual surveys and overlay and overlap, and it's a very time-consuming and frustrating process. And what we've seen in the modern world is that data is collected real-time in the process of various interactions. It's centrally rolled, and common attributes are agreed upon by the data sources, and it's real-time available, like the dashboard that we saw in Azerbaijan. It's not that difficult to do. If you look at the data with State Bank, with FPR, with PBS, with NADRA, and if you can aggregate that, just imagine the power of what we can do. One area that I'm really focused on is loans to SMEs and MSMEs. There isn't formal data, so we use alternate data sources. We look at a Kriana store and we look at what it's buying from a distributor. We use that as a proxy, and then we credit assess them, and we give them loans. And those loans aren't always good, but over time, you actually manage to grow the pie. Only 4% of SMEs in Pakistan get access to loans. In developed market, guess what that number is? It's upward of 60%. How will your SMEs grow if you don't give them access to loans? And that's what's happening. They're staying stagnant. And SMEs are the ones that become the medium enterprises, which become the large enterprises. So we're stuck in this loop because we're trapped with data. And I think this is a problem that we can collectively unwrap if it's done in a scientific, intelligent way with a bit of effort from everybody.
I wish I could summarize the discussion better than what Monisab just did, but I can't. So with that, I'd like to hand it over to the audience for any questions that you may have. Please keep your questions brief so that we can get as many people asking questions of our panelists. And we'll gather a couple and then we'll go back to the panelists and then we'll see if we can get another round. The person in the third row. Okay.
Okay. I think one takeaway from what is presented by LFS. I think. Oh, sorry. My name is Zafar Hassan. I'm ex-Joint Chief Economist, Ministry of Planning. One takeaway of this labor force survey is that job creating ability of the economy has definitely shrink, and because of this, like agriculture, in 2029, 39% people were engaged in agriculture. Now they are 33%. It means the jobs released from the agriculture sector. But in GDP, its share has not gone down. Rather, it is going up. 5-6 years ago, its agriculture share was 20%. Now it is 23%. So somehow technology or something has done, but the manufacturing sector is definitely shrinking, no new investment, and all load is in the services sector. But I still doubt the figure of 10% in the gig economy. It may be a definitional issue if we include sale purchases of mobiles, also the part of the gig economy, then might be true because there is a huge activity. And when we say 10%, it means the mobiles produced or assembled in China or somewhere else. The labor involved is not part of this 10%. It means it may be 14-15%. So this share, I think, for every 6-7%, one is engaged in gig economy in the entire Pakistan, including rural area. I think we have to just analyze this figure. This is a huge figure. Thank you.
Thank you, Zafar Saab, for your comments on the Pakistan's gig economy. We'll now go to the third row.
Assalamu alaikum and good afternoon. I am Rabia and I'm from the International Labour Organization. Thank you for such an insightful conversation. I just wish the topic would have been from data to evidence for decent job creation. That would just complete the conversation here. But I want to thank the colleague here to the left, who I think spoke about the Azerbaijan case, and you, sir, spoke of using data for informing decent employment and job creation. I think that's very vital because that also speaks to the data that is being collected by PBS, which not only gives you information on who is out of work and who is in employment, but also on wages, what are the disparity across genders, what are hours of working, and so on and so forth. So there's so much that we can do and inform, job creation with decent work parameters. Something Ma'am Ambreen said about, and I'm not denying the importance of overseas employment and tapping into regional and global jobs, or even sort of understanding the evolution so that we are at par with that. But I think we have not optimally utilized the potential of domestic job creation. And I think without that, it will be a missed opportunity. Rather, we will be in deficit of skilled workers if we keep sending them abroad, because they too are ending in precarious jobs there. So again, I think skills training was talked about, and that's an important nexus to jobs creation. So we can't divorce ourselves from that. You said the private sector is ahead of the curve. You'll be surprised that an FTTC just undertook a skills anticipation survey, I think German funded, very recently with 157 trade organizations, and only a few of them knew exactly what they need in green transitions. And these were the ones who were closer to the, or contributing to the global supply chain. So again, in Pakistan's context, where SMEs are far, significant in number, I think we are missing that sort of, reality check in terms of what is our need, and sort of, we shouldn't sort of follow what is the global narrative. We should be aware of it, but we should be more reflective of what is happening on ground. So I just wanted to put that.
So can I just respond to one?
We'll just collect one more question and then we'll come back to the panelists.
Okay, because
One
I
more
think
question
you
at the,
misunderstood
sir,
Thank you.
okay, please go
Thank
ahead.
you,
sir. Sorry.
Dr. Mujahid Hussain recently retired from federal government services or shifted from employed to unemployed. And data should be rectified by Mr. Atiq Saab. My question is this, कि as a academician, I see कि students move from studies up to internship, then fellowship, then incubation, to develop some skill before entering in a career. Is there, it's a question to the planning division, Madam Amreen, to you, is there any policy with the government, integrated with the government to see such activity throughout the Pakistan? Yeah, brother, is there any policy to see internship, fellowship, incubation of the students of different universities before entering in job careers, please?
Thank you. I think we'll go back to the panel for the first round and then we'll come back to you. So there are three key questions, comments that have come in. First is on the gig economy, on how 10% might be underestimated and we really need to be more open-minded. Second is from our colleague in ILO, first about making sure that the focus is not just on job creation but on decent job creation, but also perhaps maybe even the private sector does not know enough simply to make the right decisions, and so what is really needed is more of a collaborative effort. And thirdly is the importance of having internships and on-the-job training towards actual job creation and whether there is any government policy to this end. So I'll invite our entire panel, if you want to tackle any of these questions, since none of them were directed specifically. We'll start with Ma'am Amreen. Yeah.
Because I wanted to clarify what Rabia said. Rabia, I never said, talked about exporting our labor. I was talking about looking at the global trends so that we can attract more FDI, which helps in basically employment, okay? And I also talked about, you said decent work. Yes, I talked about all these ESGs and environment and ethical and social issue, whatever they're called, compliances or indicators. So I said what you actually are referring to. So that was a confusion. And also I also talked about the supply chain and these issues, how they are handled. So detailed data on these factors. And just responding to you about Planning Commission, yes, within Planning Commission, we have a lot started and have youth development fellows. We are inviting a lot of youth within in the Planning Commission on and off, and they are also in the district. Planning Commission is going to the district and involving youth in working with Planning Commission on different skills and trying to build their skills and identifying. Again, we are looking at what is needed within their districts and how we can help them. So, yeah.
Okay. Just to add on with reference to the decent work, I believe this is a very important area which have been highlighted by Mr. Rabia from ILO. Actually, what we have to understand is that 72% of the labor force in the informal sector. And the same is the case with the MSME sector. If it is, again, it is estimated that around 90% micro and small enterprises are also in the informal sector. So unless and until we transform those informal enterprises into the formal segment of the economy, this decent labor force might not be improved at national levels. So the starting point will be to encourage our enterprises to become the part of the formal economy. We have to educate them, we have to create awareness them, and we also have to incentivize them to become the part of the formal economy. So I believe that this decent work starts from the formalization of the enterprises. As far as your question is concerned with reference to the internships and all those things as per the government policy, there are two current programs which are being run by the government of Pakistan. One is the Prime Minister Youth Program. Under that youth program, they are also offering the internship services. Similarly, the government of Punjab has also introduced a Chief Minister Rozgar scheme and the internship scheme. Under those schemes, they are offering the internship with the different government institutions for as a, you can say that job induction purposes as well. Thank you.
Please, Munisab.
Yeah, so 2 points. One, Ms. Rabia from ILO raised a very good point, and I was speaking about this earlier. We have a lot of hidden jobs in the economy that we don't know about, and these are basically the SME jobs, informal jobs that don't get documented, and it's a very significant piece of the labor market. So we are really working blind at the moment. Now, one way is to wait for them to formalize, which I don't know if that's going to happen in my lifetime. I'm hopeful that it will. A lot of good things are happening. State Bank is doing great things with RAS. The QR code transactions at the SMEs are being sort of documented, and a lot of stuff is happening. I spoke about AI and using voice notes and sort of WhatsApp to uncover and help them hire, and all of that stuff. So I think this data game is definitely going to grow, but getting access to that is going to be key, and I think we have tools at our disposal today to do that. One very successful initiative that's happened across the world is this sort of wage protection system. These are platforms where all of the salaries are paid through a government platform. Not very hard to implement. You have a government platform, every employer must submit their salaries to a central account, and those are then dispersed to individuals, and the governments are collecting tremendously valuable data at the same time they're protecting wages. This is something that's very easy to do. It's been very successful abroad. We should do it in Pakistan. We have a digital rails today in Pakistan to do it. The number of people with JazzCash, EasyPass, or a financial account, 68% of adults, and it's increasing very quickly. A lot of interventions we can do, here. The other thing I want to talk about just very quickly is the quality of resources, of skills produced by most academic institutions is really far behind. There's a big mapping issue of skills that academic institutions think are needed through some study conducted 15 years ago, and where the job market is today and the quality of education is poor. Students are spending everything they have on education to do an MBA, and they graduate, and when we hire them, they don't know anything. That wasn't a good use of their time, it wasn't a good use of their money. So I think this whole internship idea has been proven to be very effective. If you take somebody who's graduated from whatever degree, give them a 6-month internship doing real work, we have seen that their employability prospects skyrocket. I think we need to see more of that, so I'd like to encourage that.
Dr. Alia, would you like to come in?
Yes, I think I've been trying to bring out an issue that we really have to focus on, which is the difference between the rates and the patterns of female labor force participation and the male labor force participation in Pakistan. And this whole gig economy data reflection makes us, very cognizant of the fact that if working conditions are flexible, if there is the service sector economy which is providing opportunities for women to combine work and family responsibilities and to balance them in a better way, women are taking advantage of that. So the incentives, the environment for bringing more women into the labor force, which cannot and should not be understated for Pakistan. And believe me, I take every opportunity that I get to highlight this issue, because I think the future of Pakistan's growth and job story depends upon how we can mainstream more women from the not in labor force segment into the labor force segment. And one telling indicator is the female unemployment rate, which is higher than the male unemployment rate, which means that more women are actively looking for jobs as compared to men. But obviously there are issues on the supply side also which restrict them from finding the kinds of jobs that can harness their productivity, their education, their skills, and still let them conform, I don't want to use that word, let them carry with the gender norms of society that are changing but are slow to change. And Ibrahim, I'm going to take this opportunity because you invited the panelists to think of some kind of institutional arrangement. And I do want to say that a very loose arrangement can be just a labor statistics forum convened by the Ministry of Planning and Development, spearheaded by the Pakistan Bureau of Statistics. And obviously you need a budgetary allocation, but not a very large one, in which you have to have so many posts and so many other essentials for having an office of some kind, but just a dialogue forum where the public sector and the private sector and the civil society, which is academia plus, it can come in and debate the issues, the kind of issues that we are debating today. I mean, not to take advantage of country examples in this day and age where with a click of, a virtual click, you can get access to so many good case examples to emulate and to follow. I mean, the private sector in Pakistan is also, through its sustainability reports, which are now becoming mandatory by the SECP under the ESG framework, they are citing such good examples of bringing youth and especially female youth into the labor force just by giving the kind of flexibility that I was talking about while, showcasing. But there is no way to scale up those interventions because it doesn't get fed into the policy making and the programmatic interventions also. I don't know how much of Udan Pakistan program has also used data to inform the initiatives that it has on its cards. So I'll just stop at that, and thank you again very much. I found this to be a very valuable forum, and maybe it will lay the foundation for this dialogue to continue, because we certainly need more of it, and fast track, on a fast track also for Pakistan. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Alia. I understand that people still have questions. Unfortunately, I've just been given the signal that we are out of time. I apologize to those of you who still have questions, but I'd invite you to come and bring these questions offline. Our panelists will be available here. Thank you very much. And just to echo Dr. Alia's comments at the end, let this not be the end of the discussion. Let's keep the momentum going. And to close, I'd like to invite Atikur Rahman Saab to say a few final words so we can close the session.
Sorry, can I say one sentence? Responding to Alia, I talked about this forum when I say collective collaboration. This was actually, I was talking about led by Planning Commission and in getting all these stakeholders, but yeah, not a physical structure, but a virtual structure I was talking about. And that's what I said, we have to have different policies and how to align everything together. And one thing I mentioned was the continuity. That's what I focused on. Thank you.
Thank you, madam. Thank you so much.
It.
Thank you very much. We really wanted to listen more from you because we rarely have such an opportunity to have such a learned panel in front of us. But since we have the shortage of time and there is another panel discussion starting at 2 o'clock in this same hall, so they are also waiting us to vacate it and get it ready for the second discussion. So I would be requesting, we have it's really an honor for me to, we have Zafarul Hassan Saab here, who is an institution in himself, and we would be requesting him to distribute the shields to our requested panelists. We will be requesting, the shields may be, please be brought. I will be requesting Bilal, Mr. Bilal, to receive the shield from Mr. Zafar. So we have for him also, yes, it's okay. Thank you. I would request, ये picture भी साथ दे दीजिएगा, उस बिलाल को दे. Mr. Nemat, from Azerbaijan, our distinguished guest. Thank you so much for your candid views. I would request Honorable Dr. Alia. ठीक है, सही चलने जाए, कोई जरूरत कर देते. I would request Madam Sahar Etizaz. I would request Mr. Monis Rahman. I would be requesting Madam Amreen. And I would be requesting Mr. Asif to kindly. So thank you so much for your time, for your views and everything. We have a cup of tea for you. So it's waiting around the corner. It's okay for me. So, oh, sorry for Ibrahim. Sorry, we cannot forget you, Ibrahim, please. Sorry, really sorry. Very well moderated, and it was excellently moderated and very well managed. Sorry for... thank you, Ibrahim. ठीक. So we will be requesting the honorable panelists to join us in a cup of tea and coffee, please. Thank you.
मुल्क का फ्यूचर सो डोंट फॉरगेट पाकिस्तान जिंदाबाद
सोई हो पाए सोई हो पाए तू करता सच्चार में साई तू करता सच्चार में साई तू करता सच्चार
मुल्क का फ्यूचर सो डोंट फॉरगेट पाकिस्तान जिंदाबाद
तू करता सच्चार में करता सच्चार में साई दिल मेरे तू करता सच्चार में साई मिल मेरे तू करता सच्चार
पाकिस्तान का सबसे बड़ा सेटअप है वहाँ की इस्लामाबाद के अंदर जिस तरह का हमारा दिल है वो है अल्लाह की और इसके साथ साथ हमारे
समाया
बाग कैना फ्रेंडशिप सेंटर इस्लामाबाद के अंदर इस्लामाबाद से
Hello, sound check. Hello,
break.
hello.
Yes, of course.
Yes, that's sure. Oh, I'm on.
That's a good idea.
We're not going to speak at the same time.